This said, the day to sable night was turned, that scant one could another's arms descry, but soon 100 lamps and torches burned, that cleared all the earth and all the sky. The castle seemed a stage with lights adorned, on which men play some pompous tragedy. Within a terrace sat on high the queen, and heard and saw, and kept herself unseen. The noble baron whet his courage hot, and busked him boldly to the dreadful fight. Upon his horse long while he tarried not, because on foot he saw the pagan knight, who underneath his trusty shield was got. His sword was drawn, closed was his helmet bright, 'gainst whom the prince marched on a stately pace, wrath in his voice, rage in his eyes and face. His foe, his furious charge not well abiding, traversed his ground, and stayed it here and there, but he, though faint and weary both with riding, yet followed fast, and still oppressed him near. And on what side he felt Rambaldo sliding, on that his forces most employed were. Now at his helm, not at his hauberk bright, he thundered blows, now at his face and sight. Against those members battery chief he maketh, wherein man's life keeps the chiefest residence. At his proud threats the Gascon warrior quaketh, and uncouth fear appalled every sense. To nimble shifts the knight himself betaketh, and skippeth here and there for his defence. Now with his rage, now with his trusty blade, against his blows he good resistance made. Yet no such quickness for defence he used, as did the prince to work him harm and scathe. His shield was cleft in twain, his helmet bruised, and in his blood his other arms did bathe. On him he heaped blows, with thrusts confused, and more or less each stroke annoyed him hath. He feared, and in his troubled bosom strove remorse of conscience, shame, disdain, and love. At last so careless foul despair him made, he meant to prove his fortune ill or good. His shield cast down, he took his helpless blade in both his hands, which yet had drawn no blood, and with such force upon the prince he laid, that neither plate nor mail the blow withstood. The wicked steel seized deep in his right side, and with streaming blood his bases died. Another stroke he lent him on the brow, so great that loudly rung the sounding steel. Yet pierced he not the helmet with the blow, although the owner twice or thrice did reel. The prince, whose looks disdainful anger show, now meant to use his puissance every deal. He shaked his head, and crashed his teeth for ire. His lips breathed wrath, eyes sparkled shining fire. The pagan wretch no longer could sustain the dreadful terror of his fierce aspect. Against the threatened blow he saw right plain no tempered armor could his life protect. He leapt aside, the stroke fell down in vain, against a pillar near a bridge erect. Thence flaming fire and thousand sparks outstart, and kill with fear the coward pagan's heart. Toward the bridge the fearful Paynim fled, and in swift flight his hope of life reposed. Himself fast after Lord Tancredi sped, and now in equal pace almost they closed, when all the burning lamps extinguished, the shining fort his goodly splendor losed, and all those stars on heaven's blue face that shone with Cynthia's self disappeared were, and gone. Amid those witchcrafts and that ugly shade, no further could the prince pursue the chase. Nothing he saw, yet forward still he made, with doubtful steps and ill-assured pace. At last his foot upon a threshold trad, and ere he wist he entered had the place. With ghastly noise the door leave shut behind, and closed him fast in prison dark and blind. As in our seas in the Camachian Bay, a silly fish, with streams enclosed, striveth to shun the fury and avoid the sway wherewith the current in that whirlpool driveth. It seeketh all in vain, but finds no way out of that watery prison where she diveth. For with such force there be the tides inbrought, there entereth all that will, thence issueth not. This prison so entrapped that valiant knight, of which the gate was framed by subtle train, to close without the help of human wight, so sure none could undo the leaves again. Again the doors he bended all his might, but all his forces were employed in vain. At last a voice 'gan to him loudly call, "Yield thee," quoth it, "thou art Armida's thrall."